This is George Thomas from the Akron Beacon Journal, along with Nate Ulrich, Browns beat writer for the Akron Beacon Journal. And we're going to give you 3 keys to Sunday's season opener against the Pittsburgh Steelers, starting with left tackle, who the Browns named today.
Yeah, that's the news of the day. Desmond Harrison, undrafted rookie, is going to replace the great Joe Thomas. And it's a questionable decision at best because Desmond Harrison was not the left tackle when training camp opened. He was injured with a toe injury. He was buried on the depth chart. Really, there was like 4 other guys who they kind of cycled through before they ultimately got to Desmond Harrison. And all of a sudden, he's going to be the starter. I think he's a freak athlete. All his teammates say that, who we talked to about him. Hugh Jackson complimented him. You know, he looks like the prototypical left tackle, 6'6", 305. But this is something Bob Wiley said June 14th, I think, in minicamp. He said the mental part of the game is where he really needs to improve to be able to play. And that's my concern. Is he going to know who to block? Down in, down out. And the Pittsburgh Steelers led the league with 56 sacks last season.
And see, the Steelers are they're gonna target this guy basically. They're gonna load up on the left side of the Browns line. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, they're absolutely going to look to exploit this matchup. They're going to test him. They're going to find out if he is a weakness. They're going to run stunts on that line. They're going to try to confuse him and make him think instead of just being able to play and use his natural athletic ability. So it's going to be very interesting. Joel Bitonio has to do his job at left guard, which he's done well when he's been healthy for the last 4 seasons. But he's also really got to help Desmond Harrison. There's a lot on Bitonio's plate because I think Harrison's going to be leaning on him to make sure that they have their assignments in order. Their communication is going to have to be on point to get this job done.
Are we looking at him getting some tight end help too?
Absolutely. I think that you got to do that. John Dorsey went out and he signed Darren Fells this offseason, primarily known as a really good blocking tight end. And so I think they're going to have to give Desmond Harrison some help that way.
Moving on, Tyrod Taylor.
Is
he the X factor on offense this year?
He is because he enters the season as a starting quarterback. We know that's the most important position in the game. But the key stat here is minus 28. That was a turnover differential for the Browns last season. It was the worst in the league by far, and it was the worst in the league since 2000. It's been a while since somebody was that bad in that category. And that was the San Diego Chargers. And they went 1-15. That just shows you how damaging a horrible turnover differential can be. You know, it was a gigantic factor in the Browns going winless last season. Deshaun Kaiser threw 22 interceptions. I think that was maybe 6 more than anyone else in the league. He definitely led the league in interceptions. He also lost 6 fumbles. So 28 turnovers just on the rookie quarterback last year. Tyrod Taylor is known for taking care of the ball pretty much more than anything else other than probably his leadership and some of those intangibles. He only had 4 interceptions and 2 lost fumbles last season. If he can continue to take care of the ball, this defense is pretty talented for the Browns. They're going to be in a lot of games.
Are you expecting him to run a more conservative offense? I don't know if you can get more conservative than last year, but how conservative are you expecting it to be because of that?
Well, that's kind of the knock on Tyrod in Buffalo, that he really just didn't throw over the middle enough, take enough chances downfield, and took a lot of sacks. He took a lot of sacks. I think he took more sacks last year than any other quarterback in the league, which can bring us back to our first point about the importance of left tackle and having to protect that quarterback's blind side. But mostly I think it's because Tyrod took sacks instead of forcing throws that would have resulted in interceptions. And so I think that's just the way he plays his game. It's not sexy. People are going to poke fun at it and say he's not going to be an elite quarterback because of it. I think there's a lot of truth in that. But he does keep his team in games more often than not as a result. One thing I would like to add, though, I think he has by far more weapons here in Cleveland when you talk about Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon, David Njoku, Duke Johnson, Carlos Hyde, Nick Chubb. I think he has more weapons than he's ever had in his career.
Going to the other side of the ball, defense. You've got Denzel Ward, who's going to be tasked in a big way with staying on Antonio Brown, who didn't play all preseason with a quad injury. There could be some rust there, but I doubt it. And then you have Myles Garrett, who's actually healthy this year. And you and I both know he sold a couple Wolf tickets last year when it came to wanting to get to Ben Roethlisberger. And this year he shredded him, apparently, in a parody of The Office.
Yeah.
What are you expecting in that area?
Well, two huge kind of players to watch on the defensive side for the Browns. Obviously, Myles Garrett. You know, the Browns are looking for him to make this leap that the league has seen other pass rushers make in their second year. Go all the way back to 1985. Bruce Smith, who has taken Myles Garrett under his wing and has been a mentor to him. He had, I think, 6-ish sacks, somewhere in there, as a rookie. Next year, he had 15. 2014, fast forward almost 2 decades, Khalil Mack had like 4.5 sacks as a rookie. Next year, he had 15. The Browns are looking for Myles Garrett to make that leap. He had 7 sacks last year in 11 games, has yet to face Ben Roethlisberger. That's the guy that he has been licking his chops about since the Browns drafted him. He wants to make those big plays against Ben Roethlisberger, sack him multiple times, and obviously Big Ben's hard to bring down. Big Ben is one of the best, but if the Browns can get a guy like Myles Garrett who can harass Ben and actually bring him down when he gets to him, that could make a huge difference. And then as far as Denzel Ward, Antonio Brown really carried the Steelers to that win last year in Week 1 against the Browns.
11 catches, 187 yards, I think.
He went off, and it's going to be a baptism by fire for Denzel Ward. He's not going to match him. He's not expected to shadow him and mirror him wherever he goes on the field. So Terrence Mitchell is going to have to answer the bell as well. He's the starter opposite Denzel Ward. Both those guys are going to have their hands full. And, you know, this is a revamped secondary, but it's really an unproven secondary. When you think about those two guys as a starting tandem now, Mitchell, of course, does have some starting experience in the league. But Ward, the 4th overall pick, playing in his first regular season NFL game. And then you got new safeties, really. I mean, Demarius Randall played cornerback the last 3 seasons for the Packers. We know his history as a safety was at Arizona State. Well, this is the first time in the NFL he's playing that spot. And Jabril Peppers last year played primarily free safety. Now he's at strong safety. So there's a lot of mixing and matching in that secondary, which I think can be a really talented and reliable unit. But we've got to see it, and what a test they're going to have this Sunday.
Are we going to see that swarming defense that we saw during the preseason, the one that looked dominating in spots, do you think?
Preseason is so hard to figure out. It can be fool's gold to a large extent. If you're the Browns, you got to hope so. I think they've got the talent to be pretty good. But, you know, they've got to get off the field on 3rd down, and they've got to force turnovers. You know, in that 3rd preseason game against the Eagles, they had 4 takeaways. If they can continue to do that when the real games begin this Sunday, then they're going to make that step and be a really good unit.
In other words, we have a better shot at predicting Sunday's weather, right? Which is going to be rainy.
Yeah, it
Very rainy. If you're coming down, bring appropriate gear, and you might want to even prepare for an elongated party, because who knows when it's going to start. Right now, they're predicting 5 inches of rain.
Yeah, and I think that actually helps the Browns. I think the weather can be a great equalizer for the less talented team. I think the Browns are a hell of a lot better than they were last year, but they're not the Steelers. The Steelers are in the playoffs every year. They have Ben Roethlisberger. They have Antonio Brown. Le'Veon Bell's not going to be in the game for them. But, you know, the Steelers' offensive line is determined to make James Conner look really good. So this is going to be very interesting to see how the weather plays a role. I will say what can help the Browns, in addition to the weather being an equalizer when it comes to talent in general, those 3 running backs. You've got Duke Johnson, but you've added Carlos Hyde and Nick Chubb to the mix. Those are strong, powerful guys. And if it's like a torrential downpour,
old school football,
we're going to see it right off the bat. So the Browns actually, you know, might be thanking Mother Nature at the end of the day if it plays out that way.
I'm George Thomas. This is Nate Ulrich. We're with the Akron Beacon Journal, and we'll see you next week.